We back again on this Tuesday, June 18th. Got some water. They got some free advertisement. Hope your day was good. Hope your day was wonderful. Put some books on the ground. I'm going to read those when we get off this screen. A few pages. Or I might go watch one of these YouTube channels I watch. I do be watching other channels. But what's good with you? What's good with you? Let's set up. Let's set up. I was doing a little bit of scanning, reading. I came across a lot of, I would say, articles that I didn't understand fully. It was some things I didn't understand. So hopefully we can put some pieces together while we're on the screen. Y'all see the background? It's a little rainy. Was a little rainy. Let's set up. Let's do that. Let's do that. I don't know. I've just been really trying to figure things out, guys. I don't normally drink water out of plastic, but it was the only available option for me. Okay, we got that set up. Okay. Disclaimer. We gotta do our disclaimer, guys. We gotta do our disclaimer. Video tools. I had hit the gym yesterday, y'all. Oh, I did power cleans. I ain't got it like I used to. I had to put 25s on there. 45s would have. I could have did 45s on each side if I did power cleans, but I would have hurted myself a little bit. I think I would have went too hard. I'm sore just off the 25s. Power cleans work the full body. So disclaimer. The videos presented here are for informational purposes only, and therefore if you are to choose to attend the institution, please do your own research and consult with a specialist at that institution that you are interested in. I am not a financial aid specialist, academic advisor, or representing any institution. Speaking on behalf of Creator, Henry is only speaking from his experience. Let's go. So, first and foremost, guys, I can't wait to be back in the studio because I have to do so much more talking. I don't mind the talking, of course, but some things make my live stream easier when I can play clips out loud for you to hear, you know? And then I can give my perspective on that. There are some things going on, per se. It's like real cool right now, and some other macroeconomic things that I can't speak on personally. There's some macroeconomic situations going on right now in the world that I guess higher education is not at the forefront right now, but still under attack. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to still get some information. A lot of information is not getting ready to come out because we're transitioning to a new year. So the most recent data is not out yet, but we got some old data out. But I like to try to find new things to talk about. Try to get out my comfort zone besides the 2 year to the 4 year route. So one of those out of the comfort zone, I would say, is what is a classical education? I'm gonna put this over here. What is a classical education? I mentioned that yesterday. I didn't know what a classical education was, and I guess my phone heard me. I guess my LinkedIn heard me a little bit because I saw a post on LinkedIn about classical education. Then I said, just Google. Then I Googled it. What is a classical education? So I don't got a haircut, but it's okay though. We good. I really don't get haircuts like that, guys. I really don't. I be saving. Be trying to save that money. Um. So what I got, I'm on this. Well, first let me go to the. Did I close it out? I did. I left the page actually. Let me go to the actual definition of it. Classical education. It was funny because I have a form of a classical education. So the definition, let me see. No. So the definition of the meaning of a classical education is a long-standing tradition and pedagogy rooted in ancient Greece and Rome, emphasizing the liberal arts. And then, if you know liberal arts, if anybody goes to college, we all know what liberal arts is, right? A liberal arts degree teaches you how to think. This is not me trying to be an instructor. This is like what I went to school for. Is teach you how to think, communicate, see things from different perspectives, right? And so I didn't know that was a classical education. But how does it always goes back to the students? How does it help you in life or help you navigate 2 year to 4 year? A classical education, what it did for me, I talked about it yesterday. I always talk about it a little bit when I'm screaming, but a classical education helped shift my mindset because it wasn't, it's kind of like AI. It wasn't that like I didn't know how to do work when I got it in front of me, but it's more like which way, how do I want to attack my work, my school work. Attack probably is not the best word to use, but that's how I approached it. Which way I want to angle it. And most people say this all the time when they go to college. They say, I don't want to, I don't really want to do an assignment that does not resonate with me. Like school is boring. I can't, da 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 da. When I was getting my liberal arts degree at my university, Valdosta State University, it was more about what I wanted to talk about and what I felt that aligned with me. So if I chose a topic about, I took so many classes, but majority of my organizational leadership classes were about perspective and what I felt from my perspective. Like we might have talked about law, and then we'll talk about one of the ones I remember off the top of my head was a gun law, right? And then we'll talk about with the gun laws is that like when you have gun laws, everybody has their own perspective on gun laws, right? And so we broke it down. Some people were like, we had to write like, I think it was a discussion board. I want to say it was a discussion. I'm gonna say discussion first, but I want to say we had to write a paper on it too. And so I'm gonna run with the paper version. So people had a choice to choose like they supported gun laws, they didn't support gun laws, and it was like, or you fall in the middle. It was a range of ways, but you had to defend why you felt this way about this law, right? About this law or any laws but gun law, just to talk about it. And so you can approach that however you want. You could talk about like, like when you write a paper, we all wrote papers, right? When you write a paper from beginning to end, how like you start from like the reasons why we have the reasons why we want a gun law, the reason why we feel like we should have them in place, and the reason why it shouldn't go away. Just for example, just an example. But the organizational leadership liberal arts degree, man, it's a good life changing degree. I would say that. And to go to the actual website, the Classical Academic Press, classical education is like a large, let me read it again. Classical education is like a very large museum with many beautiful, wonder filled rooms that could be studied over a long lifetime. It is a long tradition of education that has emphasized the seeking after of truth, goodness, and beauty, and the study of the liberal arts and the great books. What are the liberal arts? And they say they are grammar, logic, rhetoric, the verbal arts of trivialism. I believe that's how you say it, trivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. I hope I said it right. And some mathematical arts. Everything is an art. And like I feel about higher education, it's an art, right? Um, that kind of led me more toward what I wanted to do now. Because when I talk about starting at a 2 year, then going to a 4 year, it's not always just about Henry save me money so I can keep bridging. It is about that, but at the same time, it's more about passion when I'm talking about it. Most people, I said this before too. Most people think that when you tell them to go start at a 2 year, it's not for them. And I might be ranting, but it's true. And you need to understand why you're going to a 2 year. You need to understand like why you're doing this because you're going to want a car when you graduate college. You're going to want a family when you graduate college. You are going to want a lot of things, right? And I'm not lecturing. I'm not trying to be something I'm not, right? I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm saying really like when you college is one of the most expensive, one probably the most expensive decision you will make in your career right at the moment. And so this ties in with liberal arts because you want to know how to assess it. When you're going through this, there are going to be many factors like I talked about yesterday. My car kept breaking down on me. I had an older car at one point. It was a 2003 Hyundai Santa Fe. That 2003 Hyundai Santa Fe was a good car, but life kept happening while I was riding in that car. And in a short way, I kept putting money into that car. Constant money, constant like thousands, 500 to $1,000. And it made my journey to getting a debt free degree a little difficult. And so if a student is on this journey, right, it's so many ways to factor this story. Like you might not have a car, you might have a car, but you might be struggling to pay for school. You might not qualify for financial aid. You might do. You might not have a good support system at home with your family. You might do. And so the classical education speaks volumes about like, for example, it said this is precisely the kind of education that has produced countless great leaders, inventors, scientists, writers, philosophers, I hope I said it right. I'm not gonna say that word. Physicians, lawyers, artists, and musicians. And so if I type in, let me type that in. How many? Who is I would say leaders who received a liberal arts degree. Let's see. That's interesting, right? Leaders. All right. So I don't really trust that right there. I need something a little more sound. If I'm gonna tell y'all, I don't want to go off of straight Google right there. I want to see who really got these liberal arts degrees. How about I don't know STEM fellowship? Mm, let's run with that one. STEM fellowship is pretty good. So a couple people, I'm gonna talk about the ones I know because it's a couple of them that got it that I didn't think of. Actually, I don't know none of these people. Well, I don't know these people. This is very biased. I don't think it's a popular website. Well, there are a lot of people who got liberal arts degrees, apparently, though. But they wasn't showing names that I would want to know. They talked about former CEO of YouTube, Susan Oprah. Did Oprah got education? I didn't know that. No pre degree. But we get on topic. A classical education. I try to find some celebrities that we knew, but I probably don't know these people. But a classical education though is very popular, and it's one of the growing degrees that's going to be needed in the coming years. It wasn't supposed to be a long topic of classical education. Once again, it's starting to be talked about a lot. It can be factor into the technology sector. It can. I feel like because you're going to need the liberal arts when you're programming, technology, coding, whatever. You still need somebody who's going to have that liberal arts background, is coding it to have some logic, right? You want to have some type of form of communication when you're programming my Siri, I feel like. But classical education was definitely a tough one to talk about because liberal arts, but liberal arts is a wide range of conversation. And somebody might be like, what is he talking about when they play this back? And it's tough. You have to really dive into it and really understand the liberal arts area or the classical education. So let's get to the meat and potatoes because hopefully you made it through that. That was a tough one to talk about. I give myself a pat on the back. Um, where is it? So the excise tax. I don't know what the excise tax is personally. I don't know what the excise tax is. I don't know what the excise tax is, but they were talking about this excise tax in this briefing that I was reading, and so it says Senate seeks less expensive endowment tax increase. So there's been a lot of tax going on in higher education about endowments, once again excise, and just finance stuff, right? I'm not a finance person, but there's been a lot of that going on in higher education lately. So they said the Senate Finance Committee wants to expand the existing 1.4% excise tax on wealthy institutions' endowment earnings to include three tax brackets. Yeah, tax brackets topping out at 8% for institutions with 2 million or more in endowed assets per student. What does that mean? I don't know. But I'm gonna try to figure it out with us on this live screen and how that affects us. So what is an excise tax? If I'm saying that right. I feel like it would be like exercise, but it's excise. So I feel like that's how you would pronounce it. Now I feel like we're finna go down a rabbit hole of finance once again. So it says an excise tax is a type of indirect tax placed on the manufacturer, sale, or consumption of specific goods, services, or activities. These taxes are often used by governments for several purposes. But I want to know, I want to, what about in higher education? Excise tax in higher education, right? Still a snuffy. So the excise tax in higher education specifically is referred to as the endowment excise type. Excise tax. The excise tax in higher education specifically referred to as the endowment excise tax or endowment tax. Okay. They were using the word interchangeably. Is a federal tax imposed on certain private colleges and universities with substantial endowment funds. So, okay, we getting somewhere, right? So it says key points. The tax currently affects a relatively small number of wealthy private universities, typically those with the largest endowments. Once again, we said the Trump administration or the Department of Education, they're coming for wealthy schools, universities who got money, but schools really don't have money because they're now trying to backpedal on like where they're spending their money, right? Like I said, in higher education right now at the moment, there's a lot of I don't know going on. And so the I don't know that's going on is like, do we spend more money? Do we hold more money? Do we hire people? Do we not hire people? It's a lot of I don't know going on in higher education. And so the criticism for the endowment tax in higher education is that critics have argued that the tax could hinder financial aid or not or but hinder financial aid for low income students, impede or impede social mobility, and potentially limit research funding. That's what we've been hearing a lot. It can limit research funding. And once again, I talked about how research applies directly to students, staff, faculty, and everybody. When you don't have research that's further, if you can't further your research as an institution, that's not good. Or that's not good for society as a whole. because that means we lose information. We won't have information. Like, I won't be able to get credible information if they're not writing in my area, my industry. I'll be limited on information that I get, which means limited on information that you can get to help you navigate higher education, right? Or macroeconomic things, because higher education, macroeconomic things hurt you on your day-to-day living ways, right? But it might not hurt you just focusing straight on school, because the curriculum always gonna be there. But then again, when you taking classes, right, those classes might not get updated properly. Why? Because they don't have research. They can't further research. And so these are endowment taxes. I didn't really know too much about it. I feel like I'm learning more. I feel like I'm getting somewhere. So right here it says the provision. I promise you, out of all this law stuff I read, sometimes I think I should have been a lawyer. I don't know. But it says section 70415, modification of excise tax on investment income of certain private colleges and universities. Current law. Under current law, section 4968 imposes an excise tax on an applicable, I hope I said it right. I hope I said it right. Educational institution for each taxable year equal to 1.4% of the net investment income of the institution for the taxable year. So I'm gonna read that one more time. Besides the section part. So it's a excise tax on an educational institution that applies to, who qualifies pretty much, for each taxable year equal to 1.4% of the net investment income. So when I hear net investment income, I pretty much like bottom line, I believe. When I hear net, this is what you netted at the bottom or coming out with. So in applicable, bro, y'all is gonna get me if I'm saying this wrong. I promise you. Like, this looks like application, but it applicable. I feel like it gotta be applicable. An educational institution is an eligible education institution. Why they did it like that? It's kind of written like law, but pretty much an applicable educational institution is an eligible education institution. That flow, that's how they got it wrote. I'm flowing it like that. One that has at least 500 tuition paying students. Okay, that has at least 500 tuition paying students during the preceding taxable year. Two, more than 50% of the tuition paying students of which are located in the United States. This gets very detailed. And some more things, guys, blah, blah, blah. And then it says right here, the aggregate fair market value of the assets of which at the end of the preceding taxable year, other than those assets that are used directly in carrying out the institution's exempt purpose, is at least $500,000 per student. Huh. I don't know what that means exactly, but let's keep going. So, provision. The proposal amends the current excise tax on net investment income framework for certain private colleges and universities under Section 4968 with a tiered system based on the institution's student adjusted endowment. Whew, that is a lot, right? And I'm not sure what I just read personally, because it's written as in law, but kind of with some finance in there. Two of the things I didn't go to school for, you know? So finally, this provision includes student loan. Finally, this provision includes student loan interest income and certain royalty income for the purposes of calculating a school's net investment income. So if a student adjusted endowment, the excise tax rate. So they said it was on a 1.4% to 8% scale. And it says if your school made or the student. That's what we're trying to figure out. I know they said something about $500,000, but from $500,000 to 799, I want to say $1,000. They didn't say in millions. So between that range is 1.4% in tax rate, and the tax rate for excise. 750,000 to 1.9 million is a 4% excise tax rate. 2 million plus is an 8% excise tax rate. So that's a lot. That's a lot. It's a lot because I really, if they gonna be taxing every, like some schools bring in billions. Some schools have billions of dollars in endowments, first and foremost. So if you're only gonna tax schools for, if you gonna tax schools simply for 2 million plus, a lot of schools are about to get hit. But once again, it does tie into the financial aid, and one of my financial aid people talked about it, but I didn't really get it. He talks about it and knows about it more than I do. I haven't got a chance to talk to him about it, which is learning, right? Because I'm not, I'm just saying I'm not gonna say I'm an expert in all of this because I'm not. What I do wish I had somebody in the chat right now to talk to about it, but it's okay because we're gonna eventually get people in here who can know more about it and navigate us on this situation. But the excise tax is very interesting. It's also part of the, I believe they say it's part of the Higher Education Act of 1965. And so that's interesting as we talk about it, the excise tax. But I really want to get an idea of how to understand this excise tax, though, guys. And so let's ask ChatGPT. I asked Chat real quick. All right. Under the 2017, let me see. Under the 2017 Tax Cuts Jobs Act, a 1.4% excise tax was introduced on the net investment income of certain private colleges and universities. So, under the 2017 tax cuts, okay. Who does it apply to? We talked about that, I think. Let's see. The tax applies only to large private institutions, so community colleges are not one of them. A community college is not going to get taxed. Do community colleges have endowment taxes? That's a good question, ain't it? Tax applies only to large private institutions that meet all of the following criteria: private, non-profit status, more than 500 tuition paying students. We read that. At least 50% of those students are located in the United States. We read that. The institution has endowment assets valued at 500,000 or more per. All right, this got interesting. The institution has endowment assets valued at 500,000. Endowment assets valued at 500,000 or more per full-time student, excluding assets used directly for educational purposes, on a small number of elite institutions such as Harvard, Yale, Princeton, currently meet all criteria. So this is where it comes back to Ivy Leagues that we keep hearing like, oh, the Ivy Leagues are being targeted. The Ivy Leagues are being, what's that we looking for? The Ivy Leagues are being, yeah, targeted. I think I'll just say, or it's they've been saying war on Ivies and universities because once again, the 2 years haven't been having no major problems. I guess that's because they want to build a workforce once again. What is the net investment income? Net investment income includes interest, dividends, capital gains, rents, and royalties in some cases, minus expenses related to earning this income. Where are the finance people in higher education at? It says this does not include tuition, research grants, or regular operating. What are the finance people who work in higher education? Where are you right now? I need you in my chat. This is a pain because, wow, it's so much finance that goes into higher education that we don't think about. I wonder if I had eyes on higher education finance, like somebody to talk to, and really ask them, like, you think if we cut back on a lot of like the execs making a lot of money, could this make a difference? Would it really make a difference if the execs cut back their salaries a little bit, sacrifice their salaries? Could that help an institution save money or make money? Mm-hmm. It has me wondering. I'm thirsty, y'all. I don't know why. Because I'm probably talking to y'all a lot. Talking is hard sometimes. Where are my finance people? It says why would so I didn't ask, it said why was it introduced? Policy rationale. Congress wanted to ensure wealthy institutions with large endowments were contributing something back, especially when many of these schools are tax exempt but accumulate massive wealth. Oh. Criticism. Many in higher ed argue that it discourages saving and penalizes schools that support students through endowment funded aid. Schools do run to say that. They've been running to say that real quick. Like, oh, this helps student endowment funded aid. I didn't go to a large institution like this, so I can't really speak on like if it helps. If this endowment really does help, like with students going to school. And I'm pretty sure some students really don't understand how it works. Cause I'll tell you now firsthand, I just knew my financial aid, my money was coming. That's all I knew. And I knew I had to do it every fall semester. My financial aid person who I go to for a lot of information now, financial aid, they keep up with topics. If I got questions, I have a lot of questions really, but if I got questions, I go to him. He is, I would say, he'll humbly say he's not, but he's like a financial aid guru. And the impact on higher education, it says, affects fewer than 40 institutions nationwide, raises questions about equity, tax exemption status, and the role of endowments, encourages discussions about how endowment funds should be spent or taxed. I have a lot of questions about that too. Like, how should it be spent? Because I wasn't even familiar with endowment taxing, endowment funds, how they're being used until the Trump administration, honestly. I was now aware of I was aware of money that institutions were making, but I really, like, when I started working, like, at a university, because at the community college, they got money, but they don't got money like universities. Universities have so much money, it's not funny. Like, they have money like a bank. Like, they choose what funds they want to use. Like, let me make sense here. In the last segment, we're gonna talk about how you saving money in college. Trust me, we're gonna get to that. That's the fun part. That's gonna finish. That's gonna wrap. That's gonna take us over an hour for probably. But or finish us out over this. But how I want to layer this. A department might have funds. You see what I'm saying? But a department might have funds to use for paying for stuff. But the school has their own funds. So like the school has funds, then departments get their funds. I think that's like any job, but like it's a school. So like I know at my old job I worked in an alumni in one of my old jobs in the alumni department. They have like 5 or 6 different funds, they call them funds slash work tags that you can use to if you gotta order stuff for the for your job, if you ordering or yeah, pretty much ordering or use it for this or whatever, right? And so schools have a lot of money, man. And it's interesting to see like the crackdown of it because we don't know where this is going to go and how it's going to affect students. Like I don't know as a student to relate this to all students. I don't know if this endowment tax, excise tax. I don't know if this is going to stuffy. I don't know if this is going to make you pay more money for school. I don't know if it's going to save you money for school. I don't know what this endowment test is going to do because I need like a financial aid specialist to tell us. But one thing I can say is that we should keep our eyes open. That's what I'm trying to do. They're not posting as fast as I want them to. I've been really like stalking LinkedIn, stalking Department of Education, stalking all my credible websites, but nobody's really posting it. And that's the problem I have in higher education, real quick, before I start talking about the next one. There's no clear winner out here. We have some media outlets, but they not hustling like they should. I'm switching waters. I think I'm out too on this one. I got a little bit. There's no clear winners. And so, yeah, I wanted to talk about that because tax, I don't know. I'm not a tax person, but I still want to talk about it. Once again, stepping out the comfort zone a little bit. Start here and finish there. I like that. Start here and finish there. What am I talking about? Whoever is in here right now, I see you. Start at a community college, finish at a university. Simple. Why do I talk about this all the time per screen? Sometimes I don't talk about it every screen, but you should know about it. You should do it. So, what can we start? A community college is a place to save you money. It's a place where I feel like every student from low income, middle income, and if you high income, if that's even a thing, if you definitely got a large, I think it's more large income, but if you are in the different tax brackets, right? Low income, you should be at a 2 year, unless you're on the full ride scholarship. If you're in that middle income is the worst of worst because middle incomes never they don't qualify for nothing. It's like we all know like you if you're in the middle, you got too much money to get certain things, but you can't say you don't have enough to get certain things, right? And starting at a community college, man, when I first started, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. It was senior year. I always go back to high school because it was like a blur. Because I'm 26 now. And it was like a blur. I was sitting right there in front of a guidance counselor. And because I took the SAT, did decent, but not good. Not good enough to get into schools. They were trying to tell me to retake my SAT. And so they didn't even want to look at my ACT. Lord, I knew that wasn't good. No, Lord. And so just not wasn't a good test taker at that time. And so my mom told me like she gave me the spiel of like how was you gonna get there because I was trying to go to these schools that wasn't inside of my city. It was away from home. She was like, how you gonna get there? Who is gonna pay for it? Who is gonna take care of it and all these, right? I couldn't answer none of those questions. If I asked a student today these same questions, an incoming freshman about like who gonna pay for it? How you gonna get there? Who gonna pay for like your, like you gotta set up your room, you gotta buy these books, it's a lot of, it's really like, it stacks up if you lay it out. And so when I started at the 2 year, man, I was paying, it was They took my calculator down. 100 times 12. Because I use that calculator a lot. It's lower than 100 times 12. 1,200. I was paying 1,200 a semester, which is times two. It's 2,400. I was paying 2,400 a year in school. Guys, if you do 2,400 for the year, that's 4,800. Yes, off the top of my head, that's 4,800 for 2 years. One full year is 24. Another full year is 24. I paid $4,800 for 2 degrees. I kid you not. For 2 degrees, degrees, not certificates. Degrees. I paid. I got a general studies associate's degree. I had got a human resources degree, and then I bridged to my university. I was paying about 2,500 a semester at my university, so 5,000 a year. I probably paid under 30 grand for 3 degrees before I'm now getting my master's. And starting at that community college slash technical school is where like it's not getting enough attention. Don't just go to a 2 year for a trade. That's cool. That's good. But you should go to a 2 year because it's gonna save you money and jumpstart your life. One of the things I like to talk about is that I emphasize it so hard is because when I was at my 2 year, I was learning the stock market. And I know the stock market is cool now, but I promise you, I remember when there was a time, man, I couldn't go to nobody about the stock market. I promise you. I couldn't go to nobody about it. And I'm not gonna get deep on it because that's not my area. But when I got my financial advisor, it was helpful because I could ask him. I asked that man so many questions. I don't think it's funny. I asked him a lot of questions that I know he was like, but he was helpful. He was helpful about it. Really helpful because it helped me expand my knowledge now and know what to look for and what to do now that I could do it on my own pretty good and scale my portfolio, right? And I learned that at like a 2 year because my professor, I'm just talking to you. We're just having fun, we talking, right? It wasn't that much information out there, so I'm telling a story. I'm giving you my experience, right? And then we could look up some stuff too, because we always got to review schools, right? And then my professor brought the financial advisor to the classroom to give us a speech. That was so dope because I don't think out of all my peers who went to college, I don't think nobody else got that privilege like I did. Like they was like, "How you get that financial advisor?" And I was like, "Yo, you ain't gonna believe me." Like my professor brought him to the classroom, straight like that. He brought him, and I remember it's a crazy story to tell. I remember my my class. It was probably like 15 to 20 of us, and he brought the financial advisor. I don't remember the presentation at all. I think it was one of those traditional presentations where they tell you where your money can be at, like in 10 years if you start investing now. I think it was one of the presentations. But I asked him, I remember one day, it was probably like a year after working with the financial advisor. I asked him, I said, "How many people contacted you from that class?" He said, two. Two people from that class reached out to him. And this at 2 year college. The mindset wasn't there for a lot of them. Some of them was older, some of them was my age at that time, like 18, 19. He said one guy did, but it never moved anywhere. And then he was like me. And I was so ambitious. I had so much ambition like to stay with it. And when I stayed with that financial advisor, it helped. It helped put money aside for school, right? in case you never know, because a school, I'm telling you, like colleges can really just hit you with a bill out of nowhere. And then you're stuck with the bill. Then I ain't gonna say that because I do that as a job, but then you have to, you're forced to do other things and drop out of school when you don't have money set aside. Yeah, money is a topic, but that goes back to the liberal arts we talked about earlier, the classical education. How do you want to assess going to school? Like, if you want to just go start at a university your freshman year and your senior year, get the debt and then pay the debt back, cool. But it's ways to start at a 2 year. It's other ways to do it. Like for my sports people, you want to, if you play basketball, whatever, you want to do a step back because you want to dodge the student loans, and then you want to do a Euro in, and then do a layup so you can score an easy 2 year degree, then bridge to the 4 year. It's so many ways to do it. And so after I found the rhythm, I left for a little bit. For many, I said it yesterday, I'm in the military. So I left for a little bit to go to the military because I need medical benefits. Medical benefits are hard. And at my 2 year, that wasn't offered. Apparently, some universities, shout out to them, give y'all insurance. If I would have known that, that would have changed my decision about the military, because I would have went to a school that offered that. Because I really didn't need it to pay for school. I didn't need the military. I just needed the medical benefits. It still was a great decision, but as I made my way back and came back from training, I started back. I took a few more classes at my 2 year. I still had the Pell, and in Georgia we got Hope. I still had those. I didn't have to use the military education benefits, and so I kept going. And then I transferred. And when I transferred to my university, it was fun because I had two roommates. Oh man, that's a story to tell y'all one day. I had two roommates. It was a 3 bedroom, and I didn't know them. I wasn't responsible. I wanted to set that up to where, let me take my glasses off. I feel like y'all can't see my eyes. I wanted to set that up to where I wasn't responsible if they didn't pay their rent. And so that was the best route to go. Like, I changed the whole game plan of going to college. The rent was so cheap because I stayed in a rural area. I had went to Valdosta. So for all my people out there, that TV distracted me, y'all. So for all my people out there, I was in a rural area and it saved a lot of money. My car, I told the car story if y'all heard it or if you didn't hear it. My car was inconsistent with me. I wasn't finna buy a new car while being in college. I did not want a car note. I wasn't gonna do that. And so that would have put more of a financial strain on getting a debt-free degree, because the more expenses you add, like getting a car early, car note, people be going crazy, man. Buying new phones. Stop buying new phones. This is an iPhone 11. I have not. I upgraded my phone twice. I had an iPhone. I forgot. I think an iPhone 7. I think before, but it was a big one. But this iPhone 11 is great. Like, I'm live streaming. It's look like it's pretty smooth. Y'all watching me right now. So I would say keep your expenses to a minimum. Don't You don't need all the extra stuff. Like right now, I'm talking to y'all in a dry fit. Prime example. I had stopped buying clothes too. I stopped buying a lot of things and started all the money I thought about buying stuff with, I put it into school. And so that helped me a lot because I was able to go do stuff if it was related to school, if I wanted to go travel, because I know a lot of you all like to travel. I flew, everything was free. I don't like to pay for flights. I like for my school to pay for it. And I'm a backtrack. At my 2 year, I was in SGA called Phi Beta Lambda. Um, and we flew for competition, national competitions. We flew for state. We drove, but I got to see the world first through that. I traveled more with that than the military, and so we stayed in very nice hotels. I wish I recorded all this so I could post it later. We stayed in, like, I don't want to say 5 star, but I'm telling you, it was a view. We went to San Antonio, Texas, and it was amazing view, like a gym you could work out in. I did, and the view was crazy. You could see the whole San Antonio city from that in that hotel. That hotel had to be like 3 or 4 stars. I don't know what a 5 star looked like, but it had to be one. And that was like every year we went to national. I did that like 2 times because I was there for like 2.5 years. And so the experience was great at the 2 year, and then the 4 year once again it was fun. I had got sidetracked. It was fun, but I wasn't there at the 4 year long because I was working full time. And I told y'all my schedule was very consistent at my 4 year. Work full time, take the money from my 4 year to keep investing in the stock market. That's how I found out about the company Palantir. Take the money from the stock market, not take the money from the stock market, take the money from the full time job, put it in the stock market, but build the emergency fund also too. Because the emergency fund is gonna help me if something comes up with school, if I need cash fast, my car, which it broke down on me a lot, but it was it was more affordable to keep a car that broke down than to get a car with a car payment. Like it did it every 3 months, like 3 or 4 months. That's where it got to at one point. And so I just say that though because a lot of kids like it hurts their mental, man. For real, it hurts their mental. It makes them feel like they're not where they're supposed to be at in life. And I remember, because coming from a person who was talking to my mentor about that when I was at my 2 year, I went in his office, I sat down just like this, and I said, I ain't gonna say his name, but I was like, hey, I feel like I ain't where I'm supposed to be at. I don't know where you're supposed to be at 20 years old. But like at the time, man, it's a lot of people who are pretty wealthy. I'm not gonna say wealthy, rich at 20 years old, and you felt like you was supposed to be there. I wasn't on social media, but it was some artists, like rap artists I was listening to who were very young, very rich and young. And that's before I understood that money wasn't everything. But it's hard to tell somebody that who's like 18, 19, 20ish. One of them ages I was at. And he told me, he was like, man, you know what? He was like, you got a great start right now. And I was like, what you mean? He was like, yeah, kids are having fun at the university. He was like, they making it seem good. But he was like, he was really big on debt also. This before I even got into debt, like being against debt. He was like, you ain't got no debt. He said, you got a car. He said, you ain't got no kids. He was like, your age, it's like it's kids out there who got kids. And he was like, and you on your way, you working your steps. You still got a lot of options. You ain't got no bad track record of criminal history. He was just breaking all that stuff down. I said, oh. I still said, I guess. I still said, I guess. Because it wasn't cool to go to a 2 year. It's still not cool to go to a 2 year, I think. I think it's more like I'll go to a 2 year, but I have seen a lot of people not finish at the 2 year. They'll go to a 2 year for like 1 or 2 semesters and they'll transfer. And that's not the purpose of it. The purpose of it is to like get the same way you spend your time at a 4 year and graduate is the same way you should treat your 2 year. And that's what I don't like about the stigma of like, oh, go to a 2 year and get your trade. I don't like that because you can go to a 2 year and thrive. Like, I'm not gonna tell you to go to a 2 year and not. I'm not gonna sit here and say don't go to a 2 year. No, I'm not gonna sit here and say go to a 2 year then don't advance your education. That's what I'm not gonna say. I'm not gonna say that because when you go to a 2 year, you should go to a 4 year and so on and so on and so on. But that's the start here and finish there. Um, you should definitely do that. 100%. Um, yeah. And hopefully we could change that. Hopefully we can change that perspective a lot. That you should definitely start at a 2 year. It's very affordable. I would say cheap, but it is very cheap, very affordable. If you want to help your family, you can have wiggle room to do that. the university is like, if you just need to be going to, like, if you're gonna go to university, go big. Don't settle. Like, just because you go to a bigger school, you think it's harder. It's actually easier. The bigger the school, the easier. Because once again, they talk about liberal arts at bigger schools. Bigger schools don't teach you. No, don't get me wrong. They do teach you like all the math, equations, and all that stuff, or all the science and stuff. But bigger schools are going to have a whole section of like liberal arts where you write papers exemplifying the statistic breakdown of what makes this person do that, or the thought process, the breakdown of a thought process. And like, I just talked to a kid the other day. Actually, he ain't even a kid. I just talked to this guy who we go to the same alma mater at the university. He getting his degree in philosophy. Crazy. He's getting his degree in philosophy. I said, "What you expect to do with that?" He said, "Law school." I said, "Oh, you think philosophy is an easy degree or hard degree? Can you break down perspectives? Can you, like, it's people out here running companies, Fortune 500 companies with a philosophy degree, because you got to have the thought process and futuristic mindset to see, like, where can this company go in 5 to 10 years. Like me, I see, speaking on behalf, can go from, I see right now, I'm talking to crickets probably, right? People jump in the screen, they jump out, and it's like, I don't have your attention right now, right? Because as we say all the time, the hook of the show, yeah, the show, the media, independent show, yeah. As we say all the time, higher education is going to become very unaffordable. It's going to become very expensive. As the prices of universities keep going up, and you have this guy right here talking about starting at a 2 year, that should drive, that should create a driving mechanism of this channel for people to come to who are trying to save money in higher education. Would I prefer to do it at 20? What, I'm 26. Would I prefer to have it click right away? No, because as quick as I can get your attention and you be with me, that's the quickest I can lose your attention. It's just like the stock market. As quick as a company can go up, it can go down. So just like building a fan base, I gotta earn you first. Do I know what I'm talking about? Sometimes, not all the time. But one thing I can guarantee you is that starting at a 2 year, then going to a 4 year, will save you over $10,000 for everybody. I can guarantee you that. Because a 2 year, most 2 years, let me not say I can guarantee you, I can assure you that most 2 years don't have a campus. If you start at a 4 year, you're gonna have to pay, and if you stay on campus at a 4 year, which most people have to, you have to pay for meal plans, you have to pay for a room and board, and you have to pay for dorm. That's separate. Room and board is separate from dorms. You have to pay for those three things. So that's extra $10,000 on your tuition. College is not even expensive, to be honest with you, like including some universities. It's the what we just talked about, those three auxiliaries. So I just saved you money right there. But do I want to say that every time? Because do I want to say that every time you get on the live screen? Yeah. But at the same time, you need to know how to navigate. You need to know you don't need to go to the party every night. Go to the parties. How about this? Go to a party every other Friday in college because you're grown. I can't tell you what not to do. But if you're trying to balance a schedule, you should go every other Friday. Or if you're not a person that go to a party, you play the game, because playing the game and going to a party it's they say it's like different, but it's kind of the same. It's just what you enjoy doing at the end of the day. Somebody who plays the game too much in college can fail because they're not doing their schoolwork. Same person, somebody who parties a lot can fail because they're not doing their schoolwork. Everything is like leveraging because there's no real balance in higher education. Not higher education, but being a student in college, you never really gonna have a real balance because you always on the go. Your mind don't know how to stop, which carries over to your work life. You always like, I need to get this done. I need to get this done. I need to do that. I need to do this. I need to do that. What's next? I don't know. So that's a little bit. We'll talk about that tomorrow. We can, of course, we always gonna talk about it. But I did want to talk about it because I felt like I haven't talked about it in some streams and highlighted that. So we're gonna do our breakdown because we had our hour mark. I don't want to talk your heads off because who wants to hear me talk all the time, right? I'm just a normal person who has a perspective on life. And I'm about to break down a college. What college have I seen? We did that school before, University of Minnesota. I think I want to do. What school? How about this? A former dean sues the University of Wyoming. Cameron Wright is seeking to be reinstated as engineering dean, allegedly that trustees took away his deanship at the behest of Edward Seattle. I hope I said that right. The university's president. The former dean and president were at the odds after Wright last fall opposed a transfer of funding from his engineering college to a computing school. Okay. Well, they going to court. But University of Wyoming, let's do that one. They popped up, but I wasn't really. It's interesting. And we talked about, if you came to the stream a little late, I see we got two people still in here. We talked about excise tax. I think I said that right. Like I said before, it sounds like exercise, except you take out the ER. It's excise. So I call it excise tax. I believe it's the same word as an endowment tax. And we talked about classical education. That wasn't long, though, because we talked about classical education, but it's pretty much, classical education is pretty much a liberal arts degree, pretty much, but different variances. As I tell people, a liberal arts degree is so broad and confusing. If you never did liberal arts, it's actually it's more impactful than a lot of degrees. And so I like the liberal arts. I love the liberal arts degree. I feel like that's a life-changing degree, especially it teaches your mind to keep learning, because if you don't have the knowledge, you'll become ignorant, essentially, to things and information you should know and have. University of Wyoming. Why? Don't laugh at me, but I don't know how to spell that. I don't. I'm not from there. Maybe if I was from there, I could. So, University of Wyoming. Boom. That's the school. I know sports a little bit because family likes to watch sports, but I believe that's the school Josh Allen went to. Let me see. Sidetrack. For the Buffalo Bills. Josh. There you go, right there. That joker tall. He's like 6'7", I think. He's 6'5". He's a tall dude. He went to, University of Wyoming. Yep. Larmang, Wyoming, something like that. Larmang. But yeah, he went to the University of Wyoming. Interesting. So University of Wyoming has a graduation rate of 62%. That's over the midpoint. As you know, we had to look up their tuition and fees on our own because you don't want to go to this school if they're expensive. But for all my people out there in Wyoming, yeehaw, I think, ain't there like cowboys out there? It's like nothing but land in Wyoming. All right. So the average annual cost at Wyoming is $12,000 pretty much, according to the College Scorecard at the U.S. Department of Education. After 10 years of being removed from the institution, if you receive financial aid, you're expected to make about mid-range $57,000 a year. And that is not bad. Is it? It's not bad yet once we calculate the tuition. We don't know yet. So for 2025 to 2026, undergraduate resident main campus students block rate. In Wyoming, they call it block rate. Same thing as tuition per credit hour. They just call it block rate. So if you are on the main campus, which most of you all will be, um, for taking 12 credit hours to 18 credit hours, but we'll say like 12 credit hours, you're looking at 2,700 per semester. Ooh, that's not bad. Now, don't get me wrong, their online is more, but like I said, we focusing on the main campus. 2,700 is not bad. Now, remember, if you get that room and board and stuff, that's a different story. Because I know they have that on here. They don't have it in here showing, but their tuition is 2,700. 2,700 times 2 for 2 semesters. That's 5,400. That ain't bad. Because your Pell Grant gives you 7,000, so you can afford this school tuition. But you can, as a tuition alone, you can afford it. But if you add on those 3 auxiliaries, room and board, dorms, meal plans, you probably ain't gonna be able to afford it. It's probably gonna up it. Should up it by a lot. That's not bad. And so, because over that course of 4 years, 5,400 times 4, that's 21,000. You're gonna probably pay $22,000 total going to that school for tuition. But I want to see how much is their room and board. But should we add? Let's look at that. It's a university, so let's look at that right quick. Does that include the fees? Let me see. 180 times 12. That's their tuition per credit hour. 180 times 12. 2,100. Oh, it's actually cheaper if you do 12 credit hours. 2,100. And I'm gonna throw in these fees. I don't think they included the fees. Okay. So yeah, that's under though. So that means the college scorecard included their housing and stuff. So we want to see their housing. We're almost there, y'all. So that's what we got, 5,400. That's exactly what we had got before, which is crazy. I love when we get it right. So, okay, okay. So the tuition is 5,400. They were doing good until you look at their fees, and their fees are 2,800. Jeez, almost 2,900. I'm gonna just say 2,900. You're looking at $8,300 for one semester. Then they have right here for the housing and food. Once again, it's 14,000. So, oh, let's wait. 5,400 is for both semesters. Let me backtrack for you all. Well, we can use that. We can use that for for both semesters. We can do that out the gate. So 5,400 for tuition, 2,900 or 2,800 for fees, 14,000 for housing and food. For some reason, they said your book's gonna be $1,000, and they said other expenses that's gonna cost you 3,500. Every time a school says 3,500, Not 3,500. Every time a school says other expenses, I don't factor that in there personally, cause my other expenses ain't $3,500. I don't care who you are. If your other expenses are 3,500, yeah, I don't know what to say, but mine's never been that much. But they're saying that you're going to pay for a school year. You're paying, if you stay on campus, you're paying $27,000 for one school year. I kid you not. And so if you stay on campus all 4 years, most students don't, but if you do, if you have a change of heart and you want to stay there, you love your school that much, 27,000 times four is $108,000. All right, and imagine you're not the only student. So if you just say 1,000 students paying 28,000, or 27,000, that's a lot. That's a good penny. So the university scorecard was a little off on this one, talking about the average annual cost. They were a little off. Yeah, they were off by a lot. And so that's why we say you got to do the budget and write down the numbers yourself. It seems painful now. Once again, I can't wait for more people to come here and check this out. But man, it saves you a lot of money. Like when I broke down the numbers on my own, it's always a feel good feeling when you call the school and your numbers are right and they're like, uh, because like they don't know. They just telling you something so they can get their paycheck. They don't like no. A lady asked me in the interview one time, recent interview. She asked me. She said, "Why do you want to work in higher education?" I guess because how young I am, and I didn't. I knew how to answer it, but it made me feel like they didn't think it was my passion to do this. Like I'm doing this now and I don't get paid. I allocate an hour a day to talk to you all about how you can save $10,000 or more in higher education. I felt like it was a little disrespectful to ask me that question, as if I can't go to school for this, which I am, because most of the people in higher education are like, y'all know, if you go to college or get ready to go to college, they're like 35 plus, 40, like 40, they're older. But they only doing it because it counts as a public service job and it can pay back their student loans. And so they're not doing it because like it's a passion. But I think it's gonna be a passion in the future, for sure. Once people understand like how I understand how you can really pivot somebody's life by telling them what school they should go to and bridge into a better school that can also save them money because they got these articulation agreement, these pathways. Man, it's gonna change the whole higher education like view. But like I said, researchers don't talk about this because they have a traditional mindset. That's why I don't really like going off of their work. I try to tailor it to my liking and my perspective because, like I said before, I was talking about somebody gonna come and stop chopping all y'all money down. I didn't know it was gonna be Trump, but I thought it was gonna be me in the future, but somebody beat me to it. The graduation rate, once again, we said it was 62%. The University of Wyoming. Students who return after the first year is 76%, which is good. We don't know if that's accurate fully, but that's pretty good. Financial aid and debt, they say you're gonna have a meeting, pretty much a minimum $18,000 in debt when you graduate from here. I think you're gonna have more than that if you go to the University of Wyoming. 29% of their students receive federal loans. And we talked about the earnings. Let's look at the campus diversity. That be on here. It's a majority white demographic there. The second highest is Hispanic or student body. But pretty much the white demographic matches the student body and the full-time staff at the University of Wyoming. And so, but once again, this is the U.S. Department of Education College Scorecard. They was already wrong in the tuition. So, but I always like to look at the campus diversity sometimes because some schools would tell you like they're like the hub for this demographic. And so, like I said before, some students, we are nonpartisan, but some students like to go to schools where they can be around other cultures. Like some people really like doing that. From students I interacted with on campus before, like they looked at the student body and the faculty, which is your instructors. They looked at the ratio of like who is teaching at the school, and they have a 97% acceptance rate here at the University of Wyoming. What do I rate University of Wyoming? They said I can make. They get a D. They get a D. Why do they get a D? Because you're going to be looking at like six figures in debt. Like you have to pay like six figures to go to school here. Once again, I don't know what Wyoming is known for personally. Besides, I know they pushed out a big football player, big time football player, but I just never heard me personally. And hopefully we get some people in the chat. I just never heard anybody saying, "Oh, they went to the University of Wyoming." You know, because schools, like we say, school names are starting to not mean anything. So that's gonna be a tough pill to swallow for some schools because, um, yeah, when people start realizing your school's not worth that money, yeah, whew, that's gonna be a that's gonna be a headache. I hate to be a president at that school or a higher level exec around that time. It's gonna get real bad. So that's the University of Wyoming. They're like a D ish. If I had to put a rating on it, once we clip this up, I can put this into a playlist for all of us. Like it'll be like all the schools we do at the end of a video, right? Yeah, oh, that's a lot of videos I'm gonna have to cut up. And we'll have the rating. That'd be a dope playlist, right? It's something to think about, but that's gonna be a lot of work. But it's worth it. And so that's it. I see you all tomorrow. I hit the road. I have to leave my military duties. So I will see you all tomorrow. We'll be in the studio, hopefully. And we will talk about more higher education, right? Peace.